Alright everyone, as the year draws to a close, I think it's time to go back and cover everything Berserk related that came to us in the year of 2021. And I think it's fair to say that it's been one of the wildest years to be a Berserk fan, and not really for the better. So, normally when I would do a video like this, as I did last year, I would go in order of all the Berserk related news and content that we got over the course of the year, starting with January's chapter. But in this case, I feel there's no other way to do this than to get the most unfortunate elephant in the room out of the way first. And that is, on May 20th, 2021, a post was released on all of the official Berserk social media accounts informing the public that creator, writer, artist, legend, and father of Berserk, Kentaro Miura, had passed away a few weeks prior on May 6th of an acute aortic dissection of the heart. It was kept quiet for a few weeks, allowing time for his close family and friends to mourn before the public was aware. Miura had been working on Berserk for 30 years, since 1989, and though it was fairly obvious that in the most recent decades, releases of the chapter seemed to slow down quite a bit. Miura being a very private person, he never did too many interviews or public outings, but from what we heard, he was paying attention to his health and trying to stay on top of it as he was aware that he was getting older. And we aren't really sure, but the general understanding of a mangaka's life in Japan is one that's extremely stressful, with the amount of work that needs to be done and the added pressure from both fans and publishers. And given that Berserk has extremely intricate and detailed art and storylines, and the fact that Miura, despite having a team of assistants, would do the brunt of the drawings all himself, it's understandable that the man was truly dedicated to his craft and to the legacy that he spent building for more than half of his lifespan. The sheer amount of sacrifice this man was willing to put himself through is commendable. Even if his health was perfectly in order and the heart condition was a freak unfortunate accident, even if it is still clear to all of us that the burden of sacrifice and struggle were not just themes that he put into his manga for the hell of it to tell a good story, but something he no doubt experienced within his many years of achieving his own dream, and that deserves nothing but absolute respect. And that's before we analyze how much Berserk has inspired and uplifted hundreds to thousands of people during its run. I have spoken to so many fans that have told me that if it wasn't for Berserk, they're not sure where they would be in life right now, or even worse, if they'd be here at all. That they related to Guts, whether that be his development through his Black Swordsman years, cutting himself off from everyone and embracing his deep inner darkness, or due to his traumatic childhood past. People that don't understand wonder why Berserk tackles so many uncomfortable and serious issues within its manga. Shouldn't a manga be entertainment? Why do people want to read about all this dark shit anyway? Well, I think that fans that are truly deep into Berserk, not just casual fans, but the ones that really dive into this stuff, I think that Berserk can only really resonate with you if you've been through some darkness in your own life. Physical abuse, psychological trauma, losses, death, loneliness, lacking in finding your purpose, and maybe the longing and need to overcome the damaging conditions that are around you that you never asked to be a part of to begin with. Berserk speaks to these kinds of people, and I just know that by talking with the fans and being in the community myself. And those that read it know that despite all of the Donovan and horse memes that are out there, that some people like to parade around constantly, that Berserk tackles adult subjects in an honest and raw way that we both recognize as realistic enough that we understand it, but also gives us various methods and catharses for facing similar obstacles in our own lives. And it also recognizes that this is not an easy task to do, and sometimes it takes years or a lifetime, but we keep pressing forward anyway, never giving fate or causality the satisfaction of taking away our ability to have free will of our own futures. Kentaro Miura crafting a piece of art that motivated, inspired, and literally healed people. By sacrificing his time to make this property, he provided an indescribable amount of value to many people out there, and at the end of the day, more than anything, I just hope that he knew that. I know he didn't use social media and he didn't really go to conventions or anything like that, but I just really hope he knew what he did for people. I hope he knew that his story saved lives and providing years of significance to the many strugglers who journeyed along with Guts all this time. As I said the night that I found out, it's just like the bonfire of dreams. Each individual flame is a person whose heart was touched by this story, and it all comes together in a blazing inferno that says, "Thank you, Kentaro Miura. Thank you." So before I continue this video, let's just do a few moments of silence just in commemoration of Kentaro Miura himself.
You're going to be all right. You just stumbled over a stone road. It means nothing.
Okay, so I know it's a little bit hard to kind of follow up on that, but let's talk about some of the positive things that happened this year, because there were quite a few. Back in January, we got the release of Chapter 363, and remember, this was the follow-up to the chapter that showed the memories of the Berserker armor, featuring a snippet of Skull Knight's history, along with a possible former God Hand. The only unfortunate thing is, since this chapter was so good, the expectations for Chapter 363 were really high, and so this chapter let a lot of people down. But I do think it starts off really strong. We see the Skull Knight standing at a gravesite of his former lover, the one who died during his eclipse. But the saddest part about this is that Skull Knight is so far past being a human now, even as he states that he is just the remnants of a grudge. He has nothing now but the feeling of vengeance within a skeleton suit. So him standing at this grave evokes no emotion within him, and he's incapable of having these emotions, a blank hollow suit that just wants to destroy the God Hand. This is why he's so cryptic in the way that he talks, why we never seem to know if he actually cares about Guts or not. But another interesting moment is when the Skull Knight and Danan share this look with one another, noting that Danan looks like the girl from Skull Knight's past. The look that they share, to me, is like two people that know that one time they may have been deeply connected, but now too many years have passed and they have both become different beings entirely. Now, my theory is that Danan is like a reincarnation of Skull Knight's lost lover, but some people have also theorized that she could be his child, sort of mirroring what the Moonlight Boy is to Guts. Whatever the case, this panel of them staring at one another holds a lot of unresolved issues, both within the characters and in the story. We also learn that Flora, Shurike's teacher and parental figure, was banished from the island because she performed some sort of taboo magic. Assumingly, it's what saved what was left of Skull Knight's soul and transferred it into his current armor. Or at least Flora was somewhat responsible for his current existence. Oh, this chapter also gave us Valera's abs, which kind of completely changed my perspective on her, but that's a story for another video. The rest of the chapter was considered a letdown by many fans because several pages focused on Isidro just being Isidro, jumping around like a monkey boy and pulling up the robes of the witches in training, and it's all pretty cringy and not really that funny. Also, there's that Jar Jar Binks reference that we now have to live with in Berserk. Yeah, Jar Jar Binks is in Berserk. But the end of the chapter was the thing that brought it all back around, as Guts struggles with what he's going to do next. Unable to see Casca, still having Griffith on his mind after all this time, the thing that connects them all together arrives on the island in the form of the Moonlight Boy, leaving us with an intense cliffhanger for many months to come. After this chapter, things were silent until the tragic news of Miura's passing in May, and it wasn't until September that we got Chapter 364, the final chapter worked on by Kentaro Miura himself. And around the same time, a huge art exhibit to commemorate 30 years of Berserk was held in Japan. Now, this exhibit was originally supposed to be held in 2020, and was not put together specifically because of the passing of Miura. It was for the 30-year anniversary. But then COVID happened and everything that was supposed to happen in 2020 got put on hold. And it was pushed back to September to coincide with the release of this final Miura chapter. It showcased artwork, figures, merchandise, and was just all around an absolute tribute to the manga that entertained and inspired so many. Obviously, I don't live in Japan, but I would have loved to go, if not for anything but the giant statue of motherfucking Zod! I may or may not have planned to steal this thing and take it home, but I figured I'd be nice and let Japan keep it for now. Around the same time, on September 10th, Chapter 364 was released, and this was a big one. And even thinking about the last chapter, Miura drawing not only had sweet and comforting family moments of a newly healed Casca and the Moonlight Boy together, but also featured the reunion of them together with Griffith. It's honestly kind of crazy to think about. And yeah, this chapter is incredibly wholesome for the most part. The boy arrives on the island and spends its time with Casca and the others as they just hang out, play, and just enjoy their time together. And it was really nice to see that after all this time, all these fights, to have these characters actually be able to enjoy some slice of life moments with one another. Well, all of them except for Guts. Even in Berserk's happiest moments, there is always tragedy. Guts, the man that is responsible for getting his friends here to safety, that sacrificed his body, blood, sweat, and tears to literally fight armies, sea gods, and sail across the ocean for the mere potential that he could heal the woman that he loves. And now that she is unable to look at him without breaking down into a PTSD flashback of the eclipse, and so Guts must separate himself, more self-sacrifice for those he loves to be happy. Not to mention his senses are still depleting, even unable to hang on to a sword while practicing swinging, which to me is just a terrifying moment and kind of what I feel is a setup for things to come that we may never get, but is scary nonetheless. The best little moment to me, though, is the seemingly wholesome scene where the Moonlight Boy puts on the armor and starts to run away, which I think has a deeper meaning of the boy instinctively knowing that the armor is harming his father and is trying to get it away from him before he becomes another Skull Knight. But the killer is the end of the chapter where the Moonlight Boy transforms back into Griffith, confirming all of the theories that the two share a body. Ending the chapter, the final page by Kentaro Miura, with an image of Griffith in tears running down his face. Now again, I take this as the tears being a residual effect of the transformation, meaning the emotion causing the tears is the sadness from the boy having to once again leave his parents. Griffith mentions the boy's adventures feeling like a dream that fades away when he comes back into consciousness, and that's what this is. So, is Griffith feeling the emotion? Yeah. But the emotion is coming from the boy. That's how I see it anyway. After this chapter, the big question in the air was, is this truly the end? Did Kentaro Miura leave any instruction as to what to do with this property after his passing? Was Berserk over, or will his assistants in Studio Gaga continue it? Well, we still don't know. In fact, the official statement is undecided. Shortly after this chapter's release, there was official confirmation that Duranki, another ongoing manga by Miura Studio, was being canceled. Which is a shame because I really like the setup, but Duranki will only be 1 volume long. But now, considering the fact that the only 2 manga that the studio were working on were Berserk and Duranki, and the cancellation of Duranki but not Berserk, made it look like the potential for a continuation was there. Especially since it's been discussed that Duranki was only created as a way to help train the assistants to mimic Miura's style to eventually help with Berserk anyway. In early December, we got the release of the cover art for Berserk Volume 41, also supposedly drawn by the assistants. This book will cover chapters 358 to 364, sadly a very short volume, but understandably so. I think that this also makes sense because if Berserk continues in the future, Volume 41 will mark the end of the Miura era, so if you don't want to own anything past what Miura did, you won't have to. In Japan, Volume 41 is going to come with a bunch of special perks, including an audio drama CD that will take voice actors of the Berserk anime, and they will be acting out a few chapters from the Casca Dreamscape sequence, which I just think is really cool, and I wish we could get that to come out in the US English release also with the English voice actors, but that's besides the point. That won't happen, but man, that would be cool. Also, shockingly, an ad for Berserk Volume 41 was displayed in not just Japanese newspapers, but even in the New York Times here in America, which is just crazy if you think about it. It mentions that the English translation by Dark Horse is coming out in summer of 2022. And that will definitely be a bittersweet day, the day I go out to Barnes & Noble and buy potentially the last Berserk volume I'll ever buy. But in the afterword of the Japanese release of Volume 41, it says the future is undecided, and this is a controversial thing. You have half the fan base that want Berserk to continue and to finish the story, and another half that doesn't want anyone besides Miura touching it. And both are completely understandable and valid. And we have no way of knowing how much of the story Miura had complete, or how many chapters he written in advance, or even what his wishes were on the matter. Maybe he wants a story to be told to completion no matter what, or maybe he doesn't. We simply don't know. It could be the fact that since it's not officially canceled, it means that there's hope for more, but it could also be that they didn't want to end the year with more negative news and wanted Berserk to kind of go out on top. So I wish I could tell you guys one way or the other, but the truth is, as of the recording of this video, it is still unknown. I know this has been a roller coaster of a year for Berserk fans, and despite the good, there is no getting around the insurmountable bad that we experienced this year. But like I said, we will continue to thank and appreciate Miura for leaving us with this incredible series, and even if it never gets its ending, well, that's life. Life is messy, ugly, dark, and brutal. The reality of Berserk isn't far from the truth. And like Guts, like Miura, we will keep going until the end, living our lives the way that we want and doing the best we can within this chaos. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I didn't want to bring up bad memories once again, but more so, I just wanted to remind us why we love this series as much as we do, and how much we appreciate the sacrifice that Miura must have done in order to create as much of the story as he had. And also, let's not forget that we did get 2 pretty great chapters this year as well. So leave a comment down below of your favorite Berserk memory of 2021, or just anything you would like to add or mention. Please like this video as well if you enjoyed it, and check out all the links in the description where you can support the channel and follow me on various social medias. Other than that, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next time.